Welcome to Ilawest, a small town tucked in the heart of Lagos, Nigeria, a place where life was never as it should be. Here, the basic amenities of life were luxuries. School was a privilege reserved for children of white-collar workers. Others learned trades or were sent off to work as maids for rich families outside the area. 3 square meals were an unattainable dream, even for the better off. On a good day, the average resident soaked gari, cassava flakes, in water for dinner. Rice is the national food of Nigeria, not here. That was for Christmas or weddings. Not even birthdays would make a family prepare it. Among the struggling families was the Warayegbe family. Father, mother, 6 boys, and 1 daughter, Susan. The boys never saw the inside of a classroom, but Susan was different. Her father, a bricklayer with calloused hands and a stubborn will, refused to let her be swallowed by Ilawest's cycle of poverty. Susan must be educated, he would say. He scraped together enough to send her to private schools, where the classes were smaller and the teaching was more attentive. She made it all the way to secondary school, and when she gained admission to the University of Lagos, her father was ready to pay the fees. But life had other plans. A sudden heart attack took him away on a site where he worked. Her mother, who had never supported the idea of schooling, wasted no time. "You've read enough." When a lady reads too much, it can spoil her chances of fertility, she declared. The admission letter became a useless piece of paper. Without her father's income, there was no money for fees. Susan's dream crumbled. She thought she'd at least be allowed to learn a skill, but her mother had other plans. "You'll work for a rich family. Bring home money. You've eaten enough without contributing. You're not any more special than your brothers." Susan resisted, not only because it meant a lid had been placed on her life, but also because she knew the dangers. In Lagos, maids went missing. Some were trafficked, some abused, some never returned home. But her protests fell on deaf ears. She soon found herself working in the home of the Ajenese family, a couple with 2 boys about her age. To her surprise, they treated her well. She was paid weekly, given bonuses, and even had her own room. Mrs. Ajenese sometimes drove her home to ensure she was safe. The biggest surprise, Mr. Ajenese enrolled her in a private university, the same one his sons attended. What had started as a dreaded job became a second chance at life. Nothing could ever go wrong anymore, or so she thought. One sunny afternoon, while Susan was resting in her room, her phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Ajenese. "Meet me at," followed by a live location. "Don't be late." Without hesitation, Susan called the driver and gave him the address. The location turned out to be an abandoned building. Strange, but she thought little of it. "I'm here, Ma," she texted. "Come in," came the reply. Inside, the air felt heavier with each step. The wind whispered through broken windows. Something in her gut twisted. She had that knowing feeling. Something was wrong. At last, she saw Mrs. Ajenese, but her face was pale, her eyes vacant, her presence wrong. "Ma, are you okay? Ma? Don't bother. She can't hear you." She was interrupted by a familiar voice. Susan spun around. Mr. Ajenese stood too close, his smile curling like a blade. "Sir, when did you get here?" she asked, voice trembling. Ignoring the question, he clapped his hands. Mrs. Ajenese collapsed, lifeless. The room shifted, no longer empty, but filled with bodies. Men, women, children. Some were faces from missing maid posters. Some she recognized as members of the Ajenese family. Others were strangers, all gone. Susan's breath caught. She knew this was the end. She wouldn't be leaving alive. Weeks went by, and her family finally went to Mr. Agenese. Wait. She left weeks ago and never came back, he said with a practiced look of concern. I've been looking for her, too. Dreams shattered. Her face added to the posters of the missing maids. To this day, no one knows the truth about Mr. Agenese, or what waits in the shadows of that abandoned house.